Hey guys, so just before we start, hey guys, this is Harshita and I'm your host for the day. And before we start, here's a quick check. Am I audible to you all? Just let me know in the chat section so that we can proceed with our webinar session. Okay, great. So, hi guys, as I already told you, I'm Harshita, your host for the day, and the community specialist at Designhill, and I hope you guys are safe and doing great. So, welcome you all to this AMA, which is why building relationships is important for sustainable growth. And today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's creative leading marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike. That caters to the sorry, I'm really sorry, who can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products by created by independent artists. So moving ahead, we have with us Kathyrn Gratton. So I would like to welcome you, Kathyrn, who has taken the time out from her busy schedule and to be here and share her awesome tips and tricks. So let me introduce. You are on mute, Kathyrn. So before we start, let me unmute you first. So yeah, let me introduce Kathyrn, our speaker of the day. So Kathyrn is the founder and chief strategy officer at Red Lip Center LLC. She has more than 16 years of experience in leadership roles, people's management, community development, and business strategies. She helps both profit and non-profit businesses to help elevate their brands, relationship strategies, and bring a customer-focused thought process to encourage growth and innovative businesses, from building databases to successful marketing campaigns and establishing relationships. She brings a collaborative mindset to all that she does. Wow. So, hi, Catherine. Hi. So, I would like you to know how it all started. Catherine, you are on mute.
Technology and I sometimes are not BFFs. So for me, I got started at an early age with working in a family business. My dad's an electrician and he decided to start out on his own. So I learned from the ground up on what all goes into the behind the scenes of entrepreneurism. And from there, kind of dabbled around in college a bit, trying to find what would fit me best, and decided, you know what, doing it on my own and working in the community and making a difference was going to be a big part of who I wanted my identity to be. So I was going to find a way to make that happen. Um, Background on me, I spent 6 years in our community working with our local Chamber of Commerce and trying to help them with growing businesses. And that's where I really began to learn the importance of that relationship building key, because that's what a lot of Chamber of Commerces do. They take and build relationships, connect dots, and so forth for folks. And when I saw the value of that, that's kind of where I really said, okay, let's go forward. Let's build on this. Let's apply this, because I don't see a lot of small businesses take the time to do it. Um, a lot of small businesses, they're so ingrained in running day to day and taking care of just what they need to that they forget there's this whole other element that they don't teach you in business courses, which is the relationship building side. And so that's kind of where it came in and started for me with how do I do this? Where do I go? And what do I make a difference with?
Great.
So,
Great, great, great. So before we start the session, here is a quick update, guys. You can take the screenshot of this event and just tweet it and tag Designhill DH and Kathyrn Gratton, and one lucky winner will have a chance to get a print shop gift card worth $50. And along with that, as a gesture of appreciation that you could join us for this event, we have some special offers for you. So just keep an eye on our chat section. Your offers are waiting. So having said that, let's quickly look at what Design Hill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash at my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
Great, guys. So, all right, that was all about Design Hell, and now we are all set to start the session. So, now let me walk you through the flow of the event. So, firstly, Kathleen will just brief us about the topic, which is why building relationship is important for our sustainable growth, and then we'll have a short break, and then we'll take up the questions which are already asked by our registrants or the live questions which will be asked in the questions tab. So guys, if you have any questions, just put them on our questions tab, and if you have the similar question, then just tap on upvote button and the maximum number of upvotes will be taken first. And we have also rolled out a few polls, so don't forget to answer them too. So Kathleen, let's begin the session and over to you.
all right, great. Thank you. And thank you, Designhill, for this opportunity. I'm thrilled to be able to partner with you guys on this. So one of my favorite things to talk about is relationship building and how it's important to businesses. And when I'm talking with business owners and trying to explain to them the importance, I like to take and focus on the ABCs. So the first key piece when you're building a relationship is authenticity. As it is with our personal lives, our professional lives are very similar in that you want to be authentic when you're trying to establish a relationship with your customers, a relationship with other vendors, just in general, community leaders, all those pieces. You have to come from a place of being real with them. So an example of that I'll use is I have a client I work with, and she is a true artist. She is a wonderfully creative mind. But sometimes that creative mind holds her up when she's doing some of her marketing. So when she's putting stuff out on social media to promote herself, it's a lot of different thoughts going everywhere. It's jumbled. And then she gets flustered and it comes across because she'll strip it all back and it's just very cold blood to the point, which is not the experience you get when you're actually learning from her and going to her classes. So we had to sit down and have a talk about, and she just cannot feel herself when she's doing marketing online. So she said, I'm not me. So we had to come up with, how do we create an authentic voice so people could see it? And for her, that became taking away typing words and allowing video to speak for her. Now people can see that personality come through, and just how amazing she can be when she's walking you through how to create works of art. And it's really turned things around for her to show those pieces. So that authenticity gave a realness that just wasn't there before, that she was trying to convey. Another key one I tell people, when you're looking at building a relationship and you're really trying to invest in this being a key piece of your business, is balance. That's my B in the ABCs. Because you can get burned out quickly trying to just go out and attend networking events or being online, as we all are now, and connecting with folks on social media and checking in, that you can get lost in your home life and not be connecting with the folks there that you need to be a part of. Or if you're too invested in the social media side on the personal life, you're not connecting enough for business. So you have to find what balance is for you. And that's not an easy answer because it's different for each person. That also rolls into the next piece of my ABCs, which is the C, consistency. Whatever you decide to set forth on creating for relationship building processes, it has to be consistent. If you're showing up every day telling people on LinkedIn how happy you are, congratulations on anniversaries, and following them and interacting with them, you're gonna have to try to figure out how you can maintain that level of interaction, because they think you're a very engaging person. They think you're this very caring person. They think you're really invested in them. And then if all of a sudden you're like, hey, what's up? You're given mixed messages, and then that goes back to that authenticity. They're seeing, and they're sitting there questioning which one is the real you. So authenticity, balance, and consistency are key for growth in relationship building and so forth for the business. Now, a lot of you may be asking, well, why should I? I'm doing marketing, I've got customers coming in the door, I've got sales coming in online, all of that stuff. So that's great, but why do I need to build these relationships? Why do I need to do these ABCs? Well, you're gonna lose customers. It's the thing that we never really talk about. It's that elephant in the room. But they say on average about 20% of a community's population will either move away or pass away or something. So there's automatically a potential for you to lose 20% each year of your revenue base. You have to be figuring out how to reach a new 20% to maintain where you would operate at. So how do you do that? You do the ABCs. You go out, you follow people on social media, you interact with people at events, you connect, you find out ways that you can build with other vendors. Maybe there's a complementary business that can send referrals to you. All of those pieces are important. Another piece that you need to keep in mind is, while you're chasing that new 20% that you need to bring in, there's 80% who fell in love with you that you've also got to keep happy. So we're working to make sure that we keep them happy, we maintain what we've done with them so far and established with them, and it can become quite exhausting sometimes. So if you're in a position where you can take and invest in having a staff member who says, I'll handle my marketing, I'll handle my public relations side, you go do the operational side, it's probably one of the wisest investments that you can make. And self-plug, sort of, You can hire 1099 and outside employees, like working with myself or Designhill, all those that can come in and do those elements for you so that you can focus on other stuff as well. It's an uphill battle, I'm not gonna lie, but it's rewarding because some of the coolest things can come out of establishing relationships with folks. For example, myself, one I've been able to encounter is within my community, I've established a relationship with folks that they know I probably either have the answer or I know the answer, I know the person who has the answer, and I can direct them to things. And that's been me authentically going and building relationships, talking with folks, finding out what they need, or helping connect for them. And then in return, I don't have to ask as much for them to endorse my services. They do it willingly. They will, hey, have you talked to Kathyrn about this? She can help you. And all of those pieces. So it's been rewarding on that. Part of that came from learning how to create my balance and spending a little more time with the scale tip towards being at professional events and personal life going, hey, pay attention to me. And then this past year has allowed me to balance it a little better with a little more home life, as I'm sure most of you have been able to do because we're on lockdown half the time. So, but it's allowed me to really look at and bring those social media elements back in and say, I can connect with people without being in person to connect. And that's been me showing up consistently, checking in on friends, asking how they're doing, asking business owners that I've worked with in the past if things are all right and how they're doing, even if we're not working together. We still had a relationship at some point. Just checking in on them, all of those things, that consistency to know that I'm still here regardless of where things are at in the world. I'm still being authentic. I did care. I still do care. I want to do those. So you can see how those three pieces really just fit together well to say, I want to build relationships with folks. So with that, I want to find out what you guys are struggling with and what questions you're going to have and how I can hopefully give some guidance and help to get you on the right path.
Great.
So
We already have many questions with us. And yes, talking about the balance, I just saw your profile. I was going through your Instagram profile and just I loved your profile, how you managed your cooking, your working, your being fit and everything. I just loved it.
thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, that was an amazing tip from coming from Kathyrn. And so I hope you guys are enjoying the session. And before we move forward and take few questions, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill for organizing this event. And I hope you guys are tweeting this event's screenshot and tagging Designhill and Kathleen. Come on, guys, you can be one lucky winner also. So let's take a quick break and keep this interesting AMA going on. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Kathyrn.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers, it's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I designed out and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and, you know, makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
So, all right, guys, we are back again with our awesome guest, Kathyrn. And guys, don't forget to ask your questions in the questions tab. And now we'll start with the question section. And here is the first question for you, Kathyrn, from one of our registrants. What are the key ingredients in maintaining successful business relationships?
Well, key parts is going back to what I touched on in the beginning, that ABCs. Authenticity, so deliver on who you are portraying. If you're a caring, compassionate person, show up as that all the time, be authentic in that relationship. Finding balance so that you can maintain engaging them in the expectations and the level that you're promising. And then your consistency, how you tell them you're going to show up, they are expecting you to show up like that. Business relationships aren't much different from personal relationships when you think about it. You're still gaining trust, you're still learning about the other person. There's that give and take that needs to take place. So those are the key pieces that you need to focus on when you're starting out to build that. One of the biggest turnoffs I can say, and using an example, is I'm sure a lot of you can relate. If you're on LinkedIn, you get the accept the new request, and then you get hit with the, hey, so you want to buy my financial services? You want to take on that? And it's like, dude, I just accepted your request. I just met you. Why? Because you've already told me you're going to just be aggressive, sell right out the door. So your authentic person is to show up, get my money, and go. You invest no time, there's no balance, and the consistency will be, when you want something, you'll tell me, but I'm probably not going to get much out of this relationship. So that's why those ABCs, authentic, balance, and consistency, are so important for the relationships.
Well, that was so to the point answer with an example. So, moving ahead, we have our next question, which is, we always say that being honest is the best thing, but does that really help in business relationships? What we mean to ask is how to balance between honesty and diplomacy to make any situation the best.
Well, so I'll go back to a scenario I experienced early on in my career with honesty and the painful factors of trying to figure out how do you do something. I had a previous boss in a job that they weren't the best boss. They were, by definition, a micromanager. If you looked it up in the dictionary, I thought their picture should be right beside it. And they were sitting down. They decided after the first year there, they wanted to do one-on-one interviews, reviews with the staff, and ask us how they were doing, not just give us our review, but we were supposed to review them. And can I tell you, when you have a boss that has an ego and is a micromanager, there is no bigger fear in your soul than sitting there saying, I have to tell you how you're doing for me, but you control my paycheck. So in that moment, I had to sit there and figure out a nice way to say, you drive me up a wall and I can't work under these conditions and not lose my job while doing that. So it's hard, but in much the same way that if you have a significant other and they're wearing an ugly outfit and you really want to steer them away from it, so you're like, what about the red dress that you wear? That looks amazing on you. Or, that blue pinstripe suit. I love that. You kind of just shift and steer them away. It's the same in business. If there's a spot where you feel like you have to be honest and it's not going to come across well, trying to find that steady balance of, not saying, hey, you drive me up a wall because your management style is really bad. Let's focus on something else. Let's talk about positives. Let's talk about maybe how things are affecting you and impacting you so that they're aware of the situation. And yeah, at the end of the day, unfortunately, honesty is always the best policy. It's just finding the best way to package it nicely and tactfully is probably what's going to help. And they'll respect you more for it too, once you realize that you're being honest with them.
Yeah, but we can say that sometimes situation differs from person to person, to whom we are talking with. Some are like brutal, blunt. They just like whatever is in your mind, just say it. And some are like, how could you say that?
Yes, and there's no right answer for every person each time. You can't just say, like you said, you can't just be blunt with every single person. There are some, I've had super sensitive clients and coworkers in the past that me just saying, this is a bad idea. No, abort this idea would have just sent them over the edge. So it was, all right, baby steps and just kind of, walking through the process little by little and kind of, it's a great idea, but could we do these tweaks? Or, there's good foundation to this. Let's just think it through a little further, maybe some more detail, so it's finding those fine lines. And also just really that goes into that whole learning about each other in the early phases, so you know how they like to communicate, how they like to interact with you, so that you'll know not to be blunt with a sensitive person.
Exactly. So, on that note, we have three questions from our live audience. So, let's take the first one. So, it's from Nidhi Thawal. What is the role of empathy in leadership roles, where you have to lead a team of supremely talented minds? How do you create balance where you have to hear out people and at the same time make yourself heard too? Is there any way to avoid frictions?
So sitting in a team when you've got a bunch of people who are all top in their fields, the expert of the experts and so forth, can be hard, especially when you're supposed to be the alpha in that room who's running the show. One way is to start going around the room and let each have their moment to give their input and then circle it back, always dictating that, you're the point person. You're the one that needs to focus and drive home where this path is going. The other challenge becomes, as you said, making sure your voice is heard in this. One way I have found when it's in a team setting is, you can see in my background, there's a bunch of Post-its hanging on my wall and so forth. That's because when I'm in those sessions with a lot of folks who want their pieces to be heard, and I'm trying not to keep them talking over each other, I'm jotting the ideas on a paper or on a blackboard or whiteboard, whatnot, so that they can see, we discussed this. That gives me the control moment to be able to, assert I'm the one who is kind of running this meeting and I'm in charge of it. But then also giving them the comfort of knowing their voice was heard, their input was taken down, and we're also not wasting resources of duplicating ideas, because when you tend to have experts of experts sitting in a room together, they have a lot of similar thoughts, even if they don't want to always admit it. So this allows you to kind of drive that idea home of, look, we discussed this one, and bring it back around.
Great, great. So I hope Nidhi, your question got answered. So now let's take up the next question,
Okay.
and that is, what are the best communication practices for introverts so that they don't feel burnt out?
Well, this one hits me right here. It goes, because Honestly, I am actually a very introverted person. I'm good right now because I am behind a computer screen. You guys are hidden behind my black box of my display. So it's like I'm just talking with our host here. So it's great. Introvert me is happy I have a one-on-one. So introvert me also really loves social media for this reason, because I can engage and interact with folks on my own terms. I can create the balance that I want so that I'm avoiding my burnout. Um, and so then I can see updates from friends and coworkers and so forth that I can say, hey, I saw the promotion, awesome, or, comment on their new baby or their new significant other that they're sharing photos or the trips they've gone on. And I'm still building that relationship. I'm still creating that, back and forth, that investment that I care about them, but I'm not having to overexert myself. Early in the career, I used to really just go all out, full force at events when we were in person and we could interact with each other. And I'd come home and I literally was that collapse in the chair, just because there's so much trying to be an extrovert. And so for me, I just realized that, yes, I am an energetic, I have a bold personality, but which kind of confuses people when I tell them I'm an introvert. So, but it's because I like in small doses my interactions. I like them on a smaller, more intimate setting because it helps me not get overwhelmed. And so with that, if you can shift to things where you're able to do it in smaller settings, that may help you with the burnout phase.
Great, great. So I hope your question got answered. And seriously, I was not able to connect so much with that question because I'm just the opposite of it. So it was a bit difficult for me. So now let's take up the next question, and that is, what is the best way to establish and maintain B2C relationship virtually and the same for B2B?
So when you're building the business to customer relationships online, one way is to use your social media platforms to your advantage, asking questions and engaging them in things like, say, for example, if you have a clothing or a retail store, showing fashions and putting up the photos and asking input. Do you like these? So forth. So maybe, especially if you're a small business, you'll probably recognize names and photos of people that are interacting with your social media. That go friend them, go, follow them and find out details, not in like a creepy stalker way, but just learn things about them, like what's their birthday, or, do they have a dog or a cat that they adore, those types of things, so that you can let them feel like it's a personal level that you've connected and make them feel like they matter. For the business to business side, some of those same things, because honestly, the business part of it is it's a name. For me, Red Lips Mentor is the name of my company, but I'm still Kathyrn. So at the end of the day, if you're building a relationship with Red Lips Mentor, you're building a relationship with Kathyrn. So you need to learn about Kathyrn and interact with Kathyrn. And so we get caught up in that thinking that some of this has to be, different, that B2B and B2C aren't the same, but your vendors have employees. They have staff who will refer you. You're going to work with a person at that business. So learning and establishing good foundational pieces of that relationship are no different than what you probably would invest with your customers. So applying that mentality on both sides can be beneficial.
Okay.
I guess the only big difference would be the B2B, you'll give referrals back. So always refer.
Great. So now I'm so sorry, I'm just smiling and laughing a lot.
Oh,
I'm
you're
just
good.
loving this session. I'm just loving it.
We gotta have fun.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so moving ahead, my next question is, online communities have gained the maximum momentum during the lockdown and they are the way forward. What is the most effective way of communicating with online communities, and how often should we communicate?
So, communication in the online communities part, going back to that, consistency. So, if you're able to check in only every couple days and post things and share interaction, then you're checking in every couple days. The one part I would say is if you're checking in every couple days and you're seeing that you're losing followers, you're losing momentum, that's analytics side. That's my data side of me telling me I need to get back in the game. I need to interact more often. Because my customers want more from me. So it's finding those pieces and so forth. I have a feeling that our online interactions with our customers and our vendors and so forth is going to be a more prevalent part of our business going forward. So learning how we can adapt and invest that time for building these relationships in a virtual world is going to be more important going forward for this, especially the small businesses and the medium-sized businesses. So that's going to be that's going to drive how your day goes, and it's going to drive your consistency on how often you can do it. Yes. Hopefully that kind of answers it there. It was a lot in
Yeah,
that question.
exactly. My next question is just similar to this one only, talking about the online communities. As we all know, we have gone through this pandemic and COVID-19 situation. So, as we all know, so what are the new tips and new researches how to manage and grow relationships during this COVID-19 times, where it's hard to network?
It is. As someone who has sat in her fair share of Zoom networking events where you do breakout rooms, and it's weird. And I'm telling you this so that you have another person in the world telling you it's weird to sit and do this on a regular basis. They all feel the same way. They're feeling it's weird too. So unfortunately, that's something we're not going to get over for a while, but we can bond over. I love just telling people right out the gate when I'm sitting in like the little breakout rooms for networking, I go, this is strange to me. And I'm probably going to seem awkward for a little bit because I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at yourself talking is weird sometimes. So it's that's part we're going to have to get over. But for myself, that's part of my authenticity is that blunt kind of honesty. I'm going to tell you I'm feeling weird, I'm feeling awkward right now. It might not be everyone's cup of tea to say that out the gate, but what you see is what you get sometimes. So I tell people that. And it breaks down and it gives back that little piece of humanity, that little piece of normalcy that, if we were talking in face-to-face scenario and I'm like, this is awkward, this is weird, you're going to see me, it just quirks and stuff, you would feel a little more comfortable because you're like, okay, they're uncomfortable as well. But we can hide it behind our screens. And that goes into that authenticity side of it. The social media can hide a lot of things and make everything look perfect. I'm sure everybody's seen the memes where my favorite one I just saw last night actually was an apple sitting in front of a mirror. And the back view, you saw the huge chunk taken out, a bite out of the apple. And they're like, social media only shows you the mirror view. So when you're building in those online communities, be authentic. I can't say it enough. Be authentic, be authentic, be authentic. Tell people things. Share with your customers how things are going. I mean, you don't have to tell them it's dire straits and that you're afraid to go buy the red pen to write in your book because you're not even sure you can afford the red pen. But share with them that you need their support. You need their sales and stuff in a nice way. Whatever your voice, your message is on how you share things, but it's just like in people, we're just doing it in a little screen right now as opposed to face to face. So the online's not too different.
Yeah, but as and when we already had and you had to go to the office and then interact physically and everything, then it was a bit of a more of asking for from us to be online and be present every time. And like as in for offices also, it's like it's high time. I want to go out. I just want to meet people. I just want to work. So yeah, it's there. It's a problem.
Yes, my introvert self is starting to crave people, which tells you there's something. It's been too long, and the the upside is we've been in this scenario of now needing to convert from real world to virtual world for our meetings, our interactions, and so forth for several months. So hopefully, some of the discomfort is starting to wear off, that we can start feeling like, okay, this is how we're going to interact. Because, guys, I hate to tell you, we get to see each other at events and face to face and have some sense of what normal used to be again. We're going to be weird and we're going to be awkward, because we're going to be like, oh, there's people. I've lived in leggings and sweatpants for the past 6 months, and now I have to wear real pants. I'm going to feel weird. So, yeah, just know the discomfort is going to stay for a while. We just lean into it for the awkwardness.
Yeah, on that note, let's take a question from our live attendees. And it was the first question asked from Alisha Nadeem. I hope I pronounced it correct. So, how do you build and maintain relationships with people with give off a weird vibe? Example, you just find the client annoying, etc. But you definitely have to work with them for a project.
Um, I'm gonna go into my husband's family. They've got the southern roots, so you just grin and bear it. But in all honesty, though, when it's a client and they give off the weird vibe, if you're a small business owner, you kind of get to pick and choose who your clients are, so you can dictate. If it's where you're working for a company and you don't get to pick and choose the clients, the best advice I can give is, if they give you that weird vibe, establish ground rules and boundaries. For example, maybe you only have to interact with them and meet with them and work with them and deal with them online, which in today's climate right now should be how we're interacting with the majority of folks. So it's just send emails, just do video chats only when absolutely necessary, and kind of limit that interaction. And this is going to be one of those few times, maybe just stick to the facts, stick to the details. Don't really, invest too much on the, hey, let me learn about you side. Let me just get in, find out what I need to work on the project, ask for the feedback, and so forth. As long as it's not a scenario where being cold and distant will harm your career, maybe it's just being cold and distant. I've had to do it in the past with some that when I worked for, and I had a boss that said, you have to deal with this person regardless of your, personal feelings on how they make you feel inside. I had to set that aside and just kind of said, all right, so I'm only going to talk to you via this communication method, because when we're in person, I don't feel comfortable. And I shared that with my boss too. I said, I can't be in a room with this person because the way they treat me is very, very negative. But I have to work with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them they can just email me what they need, and I will get results to them, and I won't treat them with any less respect in delivering the results than I would a client I like. But I'm just not going to sit in a room with them, because I, at the end of the day, have to feel like I'm respecting myself and comfortable with myself, and put that weird vibe aside and remove it from my space. So
Yeah, that can be one of the solutions, but it's like it was positive for you. As you said, you shared your things and your boss agreed to it and you just emailed and did everything. But it's not possible for everyone to do that, I guess. Then how about that?
I'm sorry, what was the second part? My sound cut out.
I just said, as it was easier for you, you got lucky. You just shared your problems with your boss, and he understood. It was all through mails and everything. But it's not easier for everyone to do that. Everyone will not understand that part of a thing. So my question is, how about that? How to deal with that thing?
So again, if say the boss, you can't go to them and they're not accessible, that you can say, this is something that makes me uncomfortable. This is a person that I don't feel comfortable working with on a regular basis. Then it becomes one where you need to have the conversation within yourself. Do you feel like you have enough that you are comfortable to even just maybe talk to that person, that customer, that client one-on-one and say, there's something off in our energy when we're around each other. I'm not sure what, don't tell them that they creep you out or they make you feel weird, but just like you could say, the energy's off. And it's hard to say without knowing what that is that weirds you out about them. Is it a tick or so forth? It could be something like if they have a nervous tick, maybe they have Tourette's or something like that. I don't know. That they just need to say, hey, look, I twitch or I stutter because of this. And it might put you at ease. Or it could be that they're just a huge jerk. And, then it's just, all right, so we'll grin and bear it, as they say, and we'll say, all right, I got to get through this one, and just work with them the minimal amount that you have to. And like I said, keep those interactions less personal and just kind of, all right, I've got a checklist going in. I need to know this piece of information, this piece of information, this piece of information. And because if the vibe's off, you're not going to be able to establish that relationship, because you're not going to want to send other people to work with them. You're not going to want to, engage them in your life any further than the arm's distance you're keeping them at. So it's, at the end of the day, it's one of those, you just kind of work through what you need to get done and move on to the next one, so to speak. Because that's, I think, one of the things we get confused with social media, especially being so prevalent. We think we can be friends with everyone, but there's some people in the world we're just never going to connect with. So we need to keep that in mind too when we're relationship building, that sometimes it's just not going to connect.
Great. Yeah, so that was the perfect answer. I hope your question got answered. And now taking up the next question from our live attendee only. It's quite a big one. So you can just find it in your questions tab also, Kathyrn. It's the third
Okay.
one. Building relationships with client is one thing, but how do you maintain a long-term relationship with a friend who also happens to be a business partner, given the ups and downs that you both might face in the business and may disagree a lot of factors on how to run the business.
Wow, that is a lot.
Exactly, it was.
So, yes. Trying to think well, it's always hard, like, to get in business with close friends or family members and so forth, because you have that outside relationship you want to keep. And one of the first challenges is, I would say, establishing when and where you're going to talk about business, because that's one of the first places this can start to go really downhill. And so example with that will be, maybe you talk about, okay, so we're friends and we have our business, but outside of work, when we're not sitting in our building or we're not on a Zoom call together, whatnot, we're not talking about business. We're talking about the other things that made us have that relationship outside of this. Did we like to go to yoga classes together? Did we take our kids to the park? All those things. Like, make sure you're protecting that side. That's that balance. You're protecting the personal side and the professional side. On the disagreeing piece, again, a lot of our relationships, they're factors and they're people that are going to give what we don't have of ourselves. So I'll use my husband as an example. He is comfortable to walk into any room and interact with complete strangers. It is like this crazy superpower. It drives me nuts because I can't do it. But he balances me in that way because when we go to something, I know he's going to walk up and talk to the strangers for me. So then I can feel more comfortable to go talk to the strangers. And it's great that way. In the same sense, though, he is a public servant. He is not a business person. So when I take him to a business event, he is a complete fish out of water. Now, I'm probably more comfortable because I know the people in the room. So introvert me is happy that I can sit in that room because it's not a lot of strangers. And he is completely uncomfortable, but we balance each other that way. And, we disagree on how it's handled at times, but we come back to what is the main goal. And so business is that way too. To circle back around to that, you're going to disagree on things. You might disagree on the fact you don't like how the new marketing campaign's going. But are you the marketing person or are you the finance person? Because those seem to always be the ones that argue over stuff because they don't like how marketing's spending money and all that. So if you're disagreeing on those two things and you're circling back to, well, whose responsibility was it? Was it the marketing person's to take care of this and drive that ship forward? Was it the finance one? And kind of coming back to where are we fighting over and how do we just find common ground on it? How do we reach agreements on it? And that's where treating those business relationships like personal ones, because you need to remember, especially when you're working with family, loved ones, friends, etc. At the end of the day, even if the business dissolves and goes away, you probably still want this person in your life. So it's kind of, I don't want to say swallowing your pride, but it's setting some things aside and asking, how do we work together? How do we establish? And one of those will go back to probably we needed to separate our time of maintaining that personal relationship outside of the business and protecting this side, because this is what fostered the other piece in the beginning. This personal relationship gave us the comfort to say we're going to go into business together anyhow. So building on those two pieces together. And I mean, at the other part, the ups and downs of it, everything has ups and downs. Like, we're never a straight, smooth, steady line. We're always a roller coaster in life. So we're never going to get away from those.
Yeah. So I hope, Nadeem, your question got answered. And yes, well, Nadeem has also commented on the chat section that he loves your answers and all his doubts are clear.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So moving ahead, my next question to you is, how can one build a genuine relationship in social media as an introvert?
Well, as I said, with social media and being an introvert, it's kind of, it's beautiful because you're usually only interacting like at a smaller level, a one-on-one persona. You're talking with whomever's on the other side of the screen. So that's nice because with introverts, we don't like large, overwhelming crowds. So when you sit down and you're typing out stuff and you're interacting with someone, you just got to remember you're putting words on the keyboard to one person. Take away thinking about the millions of other eyes that could see the comments or whatnot, and just focus on the one person. For example, on Facebook, when I'm commenting back to friends who they'll share questions they have about business and so forth, I might look through to see if other people have given answers and input already and that I can build upon, or if I just need to give my full, complete thought. But at the end of the day, I am only focused on answering that one person's piece, that one person that I'm building the relationship with. I'm not as worried about the others in the comment thread outside of, like I said, I don't want to repeat something already just because it's already there for info. But I still might, even if someone's already given the answer, I'm going to say, hey, I'm here if you need to talk. And we also need to remember phones still work, Zoom, so you can see the other person still works. In some countries, we can still socially distance, be outside talking to each other and so forth. So there is still that possibility while we're relying heavily on social media and online relationship building, you may still be able to have that face-to-face or that voice-to-voice interaction to add that personal touch that can sometimes get lost of just being words on a screen. So I hope that kind of gives some on how to build a relationship online.
It did, it did. So on that note, I'll just ask some of your experiences as a community builder and the problems you faced in your early years as a relationship or community builder.
Well, so one of mine that I dealt with early on in my career that kind of helped set the path for how I came across like my ABCs mentality is I was at 17 diagnosed with cancer. I actually have up until about 2 years ago fought it my entire life. I am a rare case where they have you live with active cancer cells. And early on in my career, I had this mentality that people would view me as the sick person if I ever shared it. So I hid it. And I never told people when I was sick. I never told people when I would show up consistently for things, and then all of a sudden I'd have a flare up where my immune system would act up and I'd have to not be out in the public for 3-4 weeks, and I'd just go AWOL. And it killed my relationship building in the early phases because I'd be doing really well, and then I'd disappear and they'd be like, oh, she's a flake. She just runs away. And then I'd go back and they'd be like, okay, I'll give you a second chance. And then I'd disappear. So that's where that authenticity came, because I really, as soon as I started to be comfortable to say to people, this is who I am, this is what I'm dealing with, and let them see the real me, not just the happy, healthy persona I was trying to put out into the community, it brought a lot of people closer to me. And it was funny, a lot of people weren't scared of the sick person like I thought they were going to be. I know that's an extreme answer on the relationship building side, but that's kind of how I learned that just opening up, being myself was going to be the best path for me. And a lot of people, it resonated with them a lot better, because then they were like, oh, well, I didn't know this. And I was literally told by a few, I just thought you were a flake that just couldn't commit to things. I was like, no, that was not the case. So
There's a lot to learn from you. As myself, I'm from the community team. So yeah, there is a lot more I have learned from you. And
thank you.
so now, suggest a few strategies for building relationships with collaborators and partners, especially in case of barters. Things are still sorted with monetary exchanges there.
So money always complicates things. When you start talking about money in relationships, personal and professional, people get uncomfortable. And I understand it, especially in different cultures. You sometimes don't talk about money. So the piece with that is I try to get it out of the way early. If it's with a client and I'm establishing that, I try to establish up front, here's what the contracts are, here's this piece, and then we've gotten that out of the way so I can build the relationships. It's the one that everybody's always uncomfortable with. And getting it out of the way early on just helps to remove that obstacle that later, because I know a lot of us, when we get into business and we're building the relationships and we start to view some of our clients and our customers as friends, it makes it harder later on to go, well, but they're my friend. I don't want to ask them for a raise and an increase on my contract and all those things. So do the money part early so that you're removing that awkwardness, and then do the relationship side if you can.
Great. So, guys, as we are heading towards the end of our session, if you have any of the questions left, just do ask in the questions tab. And for now, let's take our last question for the day. And it's, now that we are talking about business and people, the role of HR has attained an all new importance with so many losing and getting jobs. What are some ways and tips that human resource managers must take care to foster positive employee relationships?
That is a huge one that's going to be ever evolving, I feel, in the coming years. So many social media policies coming out for how employees can and can't interact on social media, whether or not they can represent the companies they work for. So, a local hospital here that we have, you're not allowed as an employee to put on your social media accounts that you work for them, because they don't want the hospital represented if you say something off the wall in that light. So on the employee side, I tell people all the time, if you are sitting there questioning whether or not you should say this, don't say it. If you're not questioning it, but you know it's a controversial thing, find your best friend, the one who will tell you you had too many cookies over the holiday break and that it's time to go to the gym. That brutally honest friend. Ask them if you should put it on social media. And I know it feels like we're adults. We should be able to just put what we want and not face repercussion. But again, too much of business anymore is about the people, not the name of the company. That people are establishing the relationships with you, with your employees, with who you're representing, all of those things, that you really have to make sure you're mindful of what you're putting out into the world. And especially in today's culture, we have to be even more sensitive than sometimes we would like to be. But it's just what we're facing, and it's a balancing act of finding what you can share and what you can't. And that's why maintaining those offline relationships are still important, because those are the ones you can talk to as well and have lively debates about politics and all those things without someone misconstruing it because they know you, so they have a better understanding of viewpoints. And we don't have to share everything on social media.
Yes, exactly. So, guys, on that note, this brings us to the end of this wonderful, wonderful session with Kathyrn Gratton. And this was indeed a value packed session where we have touched a lot of topics and answered a lot of questions related to business and people, why building relationship is important for sustainable growth. And although there is a lot more that we could have discussed, but unfortunately, we are limited by time here. And I hope you guys loved the session because I personally did. And once again, I would like to thank Kathyrn for taking out the time to be the part of this event.
Yes, thank you guys.
So, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up for you guys in the coming days. And the next event is a panel discussion on branding and PR, best communication practices to increase the business viability on 6th of November. So, if you haven't registered yet and you are interested, then please go on to our events page, which is shared in the chat section, I guess. Just click on it and you can find all our already happened events there and the upcoming ones too. You can follow us on YouTube, just subscribe to our channel, and you will be able to see all the recorded events there. If you have any suggestions for any events, any speakers, you can just tell us on our LinkedIn platform. And yes, guys, finally, there's something new for you all, and that is we have recently launched a DIY creative tool for you all, which is Designhill Studio. Be it a designer, a non-designer, everyone can create beautiful designs such as business collaterals, presentations, social media posts, banner, and much more within just a few minutes and all by themselves. It's so do check it out, and it's www.designhill.com/studio. So, on that note, I would like to say bye bye to everyone. Thank you, Kathyrn. Take care, guys. Stay safe.